Welcome to Resilience Redefined. I'm your host, Michael Ostrolenk. This show is about building better humans, institutions, and systems. On the show, I'll be interviewing many different experts from across many different fields, including human optimization, health and fitness, team building, mind-body medicine. In the institutional space, we're looking at different institutions and how we can create new ones, new models and maps, including in medicine, in education, in intelligence community, in law enforcement, in the military, especially in the special operations community. Thanks for being here and enjoy the show. All right. So we're gonna talk about your all's relationship, which you also talk a lot about on your own podcast, which I'd like you to plug as well. But before we do, Tripp Alyson, who is Tripp? Who's Alyson? Ladies first, kind of sexist thing, but ladies first. Alyson, if you don't care. Who's Alyson Lanier?
What's wrong with sexy? Oh, sexist.
Alyson Lanier is also knows how to be sexy at times also. So in terms of what I do for work, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, what you do for work and maybe a little bit of background, what led you to do the work that you guys do individually.
Yeah. Well, I think I've been working with folks my whole life and focusing on relationships, helping folks with relationships and bettering their relationships really my whole life, not necessarily on purpose when I was young. That was the position I was given in my system. But really had a love for, learning about attachment work and how people's attachment issues manifest throughout their lives, and what happens for people, how lives can really change so much when they really address those things that have prevented them from, themselves, from other people, from spiritual life, from God, whatever you want to say there. So I've just stayed on that path my whole time. I've just, maintained that as a focus and just more encompassed more as I've aged more. So yeah, spirituality, wholeness.
So for you, professionally, are you a coach, a therapist? Like, what's your formal background in this space? Obviously, you had
Yeah.
quite an experience as your childhood that led you down.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm trained as a psychotherapist, transpersonal psychotherapist. I've been licensed out of the state of Colorado. And I was a practicing psychotherapist for the better part of 20 years. And then I chose to give up my licensure in good standing, partly because I was interested in having conversations that the regulatory, mental health statutes and regulatory agencies were basically kind of not allowing or engaging therapists to touch. So at that time, it was sex, drugs, sexological body work, somatic sex education, that kind of thing. For people that if you didn't have specific training, if you didn't come out with a specific letters behind your name for that topic, then you shouldn't really touch it. So I gave up my licensure there, but I still practice as a psychotherapist largely. That's my background. If we were to call it a name, I could call myself a coach. I don't even like that word really, but I mentor people, I coach people. I definitely do deep healing work with people on their trauma and attachment work. So I don't know what you call me, but I help people.
Effective.
Effective. Thank you. My clients would definitely say that.
Alyson, you mentioned sex and drugs. We'll turn over to rock and roll because I see.
Yes.
Over to you, Tripp.
Yeah. So coaching is primarily the thing that I do. I've been coaching now since I guess I'm going on my 20th year as a professional coach. I got into men's work, men's groups and that stuff beforehand. And that kind of led me into the path of becoming a coach. And I would say I primarily work with men all around the world. And the way that I view coaching is through the lens of, what are we here to create? What are we called to kind of become in this lifetime? And so it's a very creative endeavor for me. It stems from me having a creative background. And I just love that conversation of kind of tapping into more of our soul, more of our essence, and getting the other shoulds and, performance stuff out of the way, just so we can really have the lives and the careers and the relationships that we ultimately want. And I've been I've been hosting the New Man podcast since 2007. So going on quite a few years there. And then I put out a book a few years ago called This Book Will Make You Dangerous.
Right on. I'll make sure that both are included in the show notes. You're like an OG. Jesus.
Oldest. Yeah.
He's like a grandpa.
I don't know if we can call it the new man anymore. It's like it's got a walker.
The old man.
What?
I love it.
Yeah. So,
Old man jokes.
they joke about like if you're a child of a therapist or a psychologist or psychiatrist, you're really effed up. You can be effed up.
Yeah. I know that joke.
Yeah. So I'm curious for you guys, like you're both coaches, you're both in the therapeutic space, you're both in the deep kind of transpersonal space as well. Like, what is it like to have those backgrounds, lifelong backgrounds, to come together inside of a marriage for you guys?
I mean, I think it's great. Honestly, I do. I see the value and the benefits of having two people who have consciously chosen to engage, making life and relationships better with skill, that they've invested time and energy in that. And I mean, the benefits are really off the charts for me.
So does that mean like there are no holds barred? There's no like areas you would not dive into because you both are skilled in doing this with others, but you can also do it with yourself and with each other?
I would speak to, I mean, recently there's been territory between Alyson and I that I have to be very clear. I don't want to be her coach, and she doesn't want me to be her coach. So there is a coach hat that I wear that can be very challenging from a loving place. And I would prefer that somebody else plays that role in her world when it comes to certain areas, like professionally or whatever. And so that there have been some places where, we have to make choices, not that we would withhold information, but that we're not going to play a role, that I'm not going to play the role of coach in her world, even though I could. That would be a gift to us, is to have somebody outside of our relationship play that role, so that we can first and foremost be lovers, so that we can first and foremost be have our primary relationship intact and not be a coaching relationship on top of that. Because it gets blurry. It's like, oh, well, it's Friday night. Did you do the thing you said you were going to do? And it's like, yeah, it's not gonna, doesn't facilitate the relationship that we ultimately want to have. So I think we pick and choose things in that regard, like what role to play with each other. But I would say that nothing's really off limits when it comes to what we discuss or talk about. You'd have to, I feel like that from day one, we've been always interested in allowing ourselves to be all of who we are in the relationship. And there's been an invitation of that throughout, and it continues to unfold, even though we've been together 20 years now, and there are still times where I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can share this with her or whatever. Like, it feels like this is an edge. It's like we've been here over and over and over again, but that there's a continuing unfolding that's happening there. It's like, yeah, this is me too, and that keeps it really exciting for me. It wasn't like, oh, we got married in 2005 or 2006, whenever, and like then it stopped. It just kind of froze there. Like, no, it's continuing to evolve, and like, well, who are you now? And there's a big aspect of who are you now that continues to be present.
There's some rabbit holes I'd love to jump in with what you just shared, Tripp, but I also want to make sure, Alyson, you have the opportunity to speak to what I hear Tripp talking about, the distinction between like the skills you possess as a coach and showing up as a lover, partner, husband, wife with each other. Those are two different things. How does that play out for you?
Yeah, it's same. I mean, I'm glad he mentioned it. I take for granted the fact that we may have mentioned that before in some other conversation. So it, from very early on, really early, and probably the first 2 years of our relationship, really, we were having conversations like that. So making distinctions where, it was a growth opportunity for the individual, but also for the partnership, and that one person could see and spot and name, but also being really clear about saying, like, I'm your partner in this. I'm not your therapist in this. Or, I want to invite you into this because I see that this is a place where you're you're cutting yourself off from yourself. You're cutting yourself off from me, whatever is going on there. And like, I'm naming it. And also I'm not the one to fix it, or I'm not the one I'm not going to play a role here to really take you through what you need to go through to resolve that. But I'm here. I'm telling you, I see you, and I'm with you, and I want more of you, that kind of thing. So those conversations had to start early. And I think that we did a pretty good job, because the thing in, I mean, I'm sure you're familiar with this, Michael, having the background that you have too, in the relationship or relationships that you've had in the past, where if you start to play your role with your beloved, it doesn't work. It backfires, right? So that's
Well,
the good thing, right? It's like, for me, that's a good thing. That's actually to me, that's a natural barometer of, like, oh, we're actually sliding into playing a role rather than just directly being in relationship with the person. Uh,
on,
yeah.
on the role thing, because I'm struck by, like, because I've worked with people and colleagues who are in the coaching therapeutic space. So, like, and I'm thinking of a female colleague of mine. She's like, oh, I fall into the coaching role with my partner, which is obviously problematic. But I'll hear her say, like, oh, I fall into the mother role. Or I'll hear guys,
Yeah.
colleagues, friends say, oh, I fall into the father role. And it's really interesting how we can how that happens. So how did you guys learn early enough to catch yourself from falling into these non-productive roles? And as you said, Allison, just kind of staying in the beingness of it, and then pointing out things, but saying that's for therapy, not for me.
Yeah.
You
Yeah. Um, I mean, Tripp, do you want to answer first? I have an answer to this, but
Yeah, I was thinking about, I think it was because we had other people in our lives that were already doing that kind of stuff. So me having a men's group or having therapists, there was already folks in that, in the constellation, so to speak. Like there were people around us that played that role, and she already had that support system. So it was very clear, like, oh, you're my partner. Those people help me with X, Y, and Z, just like I've got a plumber and I've got a mechanic for the car. And so it just, I think already having that established was great. And then there's just been times where it's like I'm not going to be your dad, or I'm not going to be your mom. Like of course, but I think that there's just an aspect of already having some of that support set up when we came into the relationship. Like we were familiar with that. And I can imagine if there's a couple out there that doesn't have those resources already set up, then it's like, yeah, you're going to be my best friend, my lover, my sex partner, my business partner, my co-parent. Like they just kind of it all becomes one. And that's really messy.
Thank you, Drew. Allison, did you want
yeah,
to start?
yeah, I mean, I think the only, I would, I was, but when I met Tripp, I had already been through, I was finishing grad school. I had like 1 year left in the specialization training with Gestalt. I mean, I had dove deep into human dynamics and family dynamics and relational dynamics. And so I had I had I had a teacher, like a supervisor, that was an amazing human, and I had a great therapist. And so I had spent a lot of time already paying close attention, and I was in private practice, and, so I'd spent a lot of time already paying close attention to what doesn't work.
Okay.
So I think I felt really conscious also of how, like, what does work and what doesn't work, and in the name of roles. And of course, we can fall ass backwards into things too, imago style. There's like, we don't know who we're projecting. And there were definitely doses of that for both of us, and still are at times, when we're kind of in our shit, but that awareness, the willingness to kind of learn that sort of thing and say, is this actually what I want in this? Is this what I'm going for in life? Am I just trying to repair what I didn't get from mom or dad or sister or brother, or am I trying to have the kid that I couldn't have with this other partner? Like, is this really what we want? So I think that we were in a unique opportunity. Somehow we were both in a really unique opportunity when we first met, where we both had our eyes on what we were really wanting to go for. And that mapped, like it mapped with each other.
It's really interesting because I find it unfortunately rare to have a vision of what's possible within a relationship and working towards that. Most people seemingly just fall into the habits they brought into their previous relationships or their family origins. Alyson, you mentioned attachment style when you kind of introduced yourself.
Mhm.
And I imagine you guys are familiar with attachment styles and you do it professionally, but have you used that as a theoretical framework for like working through your own stuff with each other? How have you
Yeah.
how does it work
Yeah.
for you guys?
Yes-ish. I mean, I want to say that, I went to a Buddhist university and like
Growth.
and where I really studied this, the person that really, that was my teacher in this, he was specialized in attachment. And the thing that I loved about it is that if anybody just goes and studies attachment, you'll get kind of the original, like, oh, you're anxious ambivalent or anxious avoidant or you're secure or you're not, like you'll just kind of get these terms thrown out. And then like, here's what this looks like, or here's what this doesn't look like. And then maybe some suggestions on what to do, maybe, if you're just like Googling it. And the thing I loved about my education, particularly from this person, Dewey Freeman was his name. And, he was a Gestaltist, so he was highly experiential. So most of my training in attachment was experiential. It was, let's live into this in the moment, whatever's happening in the moment, we are going to go through it right now. And we're going to stay with it right here and right now until we're on the other side of it. And so I learned how to really heal a lot through presence and attention and the kind of unconditional love that is often needed for that level of harm, or for that level of what's missing in people's lives, let's say. And so I think that just experientially, like bringing things experientially, excuse me, Tripp and I, like being able to really stay with something, a topic or a feeling that's really uncomfortable, really stay with him and through it, or have him, he learned very quickly to really stay and with and through me, what was difficult for me. And now I think he does a better job than I do. Like I feel like I was leading the charge there. And now with perimenopausal and all that, he's doing a much better job than I am, but it's the experience of, I'm right here, not going anywhere with you, whatever's coming out of your mouth, it's like, yep, you're going on a ride there, but the willingness to love a person through whatever is up and really let them palpably feel that, like schematically, physically in presence, feel that is hugely beneficial. That I don't know that a lot of people know how to do.
Well, I was going to completely agree. Like, it's a great intent. I was going to ask you, Tripp. So it's one thing to say, I want to be able to hold a space for Alyson and let her work through all her stuff and be there for her as she needs me. But that's actually a skill and an inner capacity one has to develop, because I've seen it a million times. It's like one thing's intended, but another thing, like I'm triggered myself and then my defenses pop up and I do my thing, like I attack or I withdraw, whatever it is. How do you not do that? How did you get to the point where you're able to hold the space for Allison in such a meaningful way for her?
I would go back to, it was a lot of the men's group stuff that I was doing. There was a lot of intensity, and it was usually really sloppy. There wasn't a lot of, there wasn't a ton of skill going on. And
Everybody was fumble fucking their way to their
it
capacity.
was the Wild West. And so there was a lot of intensity in learning to go through that, and learning that will be okay going through this. Being a facilitator and something, and just watching somebody just project all kinds of stuff and over again, like, wow, this isn't me at all who they're talking about, but they're just projecting, like, this is them. They're suffering. Like, they're really in a tough place. And then, coming out the other side, I did that. I went on a retreat I projected all over folks. I was extremely activated and sloppy, but that's, I think, to the degree that we can do that, there's sometimes like there's a love there. It's like you're really feeling held and supported in some way, that you can kind of go to these darker places. A lot of shadow stuff came up for me there. So, there's just, it wasn't always, it was pretty hard. Like I would go through scenarios and like, you know what, I'm going to go sell carpet somewhere. Like, I don't think I want to do this. This is too intense. And there was a lot of that in the culture that we were in, especially living where we lived in Boulder. Like, there was kind of like, it wasn't a party unless somebody was in the corner crying about something. And there was just this kind of weird culture that, and I grew tired of a bit of that processy kind of a thing, but it also helped me expand my capacity to be with a lot of discomfort, whether within myself or with others.
Right on. Speaking of Boulder, so I think we originally met through the integral world. Does the integral model influence either of your all's work? Are you with each other, or do you work privately with the clients?
We based our wedding vows on the integral model.
Oh, sounds really geeky, but you wouldn't know. I don't know if you'd know it if you really weren't paying attention.
Totally. That is awesome. We got to unpack that just a little bit.
Do you have an integral audience?
Actually, I have a couple people from the old school.
Well, essentially that was I told this story the other day that even though I was really excited to get married to Allison, I didn't think I'd ever get married. I met Allison. I was like, I want to get married. I want to create a union with her, and I want to celebrate that. I want to celebrate that with community. Oh, that's what a wedding is. Oh, now I get it. Right. But then there was this default to like, all right, well, it's the wedding's for the bride. And I found myself wanting to check out from that. And I was like, this is bullshit. Like, I want to really feel ownership here. And I came like, you know what's really important to me? I don't give a damn about the napkins and the fucking whatever they're serving here and there, but I do care about these things, and I'm all in. Like, I want to make sure that we're on this stuff. And then it was really like, what vows would I love to make? What vows would I be excited to make? What commitments would I be
excited to uphold?
Yeah. And then it was really about the commitment to my own body, to supporting her and her body, to our work in the world and my work in the world, and doing my work and being in nature. Like, then it was, the commitment kind of follows the 4 quadrants. Like, I commit to my own work here, but I also commit to being supportive of you and your becoming in these areas. And the 4 quadrant approach just became a convenient, kind of framework for that. And it just made it easier there. But the real essence of it was, I've got to do my work, and my commitment to you is I'm going to do my work in these areas and not fall asleep at the wheel. But then also I'm going to be here to support and challenge you.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah. And then it was like, I'm in, like, let's go. I want to make these, this is what I want. And there was even an aspect of like, even if it means I got to get out of the way to support you, like if you're becoming and who you're becoming means I've got to step out of the way. Like, okay, that's what I'm here to do. That's my commitment to you. It's not to making sure we're always playing house, and we're always together in that regard.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Well, some of some of the central tenets is, it's engraved on the inside of my wedding ring, which is love, contact, and freedom. So contact is a very Gestalt word, but it's rooted in what I was naming around being really present and with someone and having a genuine connection and exchange with them, energetic, physical, mental, emotional, all of that. So, that the freedom, he just spoke to the freedom piece, which is like, I'm going to love you into your best self. I want you to be your whole best self. And that's in freedom, which means that even if that doesn't include me, we had to have some conversations about this before we decided on it as a vow, which like, what might, this could mean that we're not together. And are we willing to make that kind of vow to each other? Are we willing to love each other that much?
Right. That's huge.
And the contact piece, has a lot to in there, it kind of fits in all the quadrants too. But the contact piece is really nice, I think, in this place of like, we're going to take care of ourselves, our mental, physical, emotional bodies, our spiritual bodies. We're also going to really be in relationship with each other. And we're also going to really be in relationship as ourselves and as a we with the world. And so there were like kind of every aspect was really conscious. And so the quadrants were really convenient and easy in that way. And of course, love, like, how can we love here? What would love do here? In each of these quadrants, what would love do for, how would you love yourself to the fullest? How might you love your community or ask your community to love you to the fullest, et cetera. So that's kind of some of the central tenets that he's speaking to. And so the only other thing that I'll say is that's what I mean. Like, you were at the original question of like, what's it like to have two people that do kind of skillful things relationship wise or development wise human development wise as a job. And it looks like that. It looks like if we're going to make wedding vows, we're be really conscious and intentional about what we're doing here.
I love that. I want to see your ring sometime, the inside.
Yeah.
Yeah. In terms of the contact piece, I'd like to kind of go down the path, the somatics or body. And I'm curious, like, how do you guys stay in contact literally physically? I don't just mean sexually, but are there other practices you guys do or ways to like literally physically connect besides emotionally, mentally, and spiritually connect?
So you said besides sexually, and then you said besides.
You could talk sexually. You guys have been married forever. Like, how might you guys keep that up? Literally up. But like, are there literally practices you got to do or rituals or things you guys do on a regular basis for physical contact as well? There's other ways of being in contact with each other.
Yeah.
Tripp and smiling.
Do you want to start or do
This
you
is a
want me
family
to
show.
I will say that there's one thing that she and I share as a value and as kind of a principle, is that there's a way that we connect and know that we're okay through physical touch, and not like the 5 love languages physical touch, but there is something about physical touch that has us on a nonverbal level get where the other person is and get that we're okay. There's not like, it doesn't have to go through a verbal thing like, are we okay? It's just like, are we? And so there are times where physical touch is an aspect of that, just skin on skin, and not
co-regulation.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about co-regulation. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily like, oh, let's do this as foreplay to get to sex, but there's an aspect of it which is, okay, I feel connected to you again. Like I feel like I know you again. So if the storm blew in and kind of scattered the pieces there for a while, physical touch is a way to do that. And I speak to the importance of that because of working with men, a lot of guys don't think about physical touch until they want sex. And then suddenly they're like, oh, you want a shoulder rub? And, then they kind of turn on the charmer guy. But I would speak to that awareness is really key. And there might be times where it's like, wouldn't it be great to just jump in and have sex? But it's like, I really need to feel connected to you first. It doesn't feel right to jump right into the sex. I need to know, like, where are you? I need to experience where you are and who you are in this moment, and know that we're back on the same page. And that connection only comes from physical touch.
It doesn't, well, for us, it often does. I think for us, and I want to be, transparent here, but also saying, like, for, Tripp is my person. And so his body, I mean, his whole person, but of course, but so much of his body is home to me. And so, and I'd like to think that that's true for you too, honey, but I actually asked you that. But many times there can be, like, oh, we don't necessarily, like, we're in the middle of a work day. We might be in the middle of a lot of things on our plate, even, or not a lot of time. And so sometimes just what's can be really nice for us is just to strip down and get naked and just lay on like, I just lay on him
Hmm.
naked. And we're not trying to get up in anything, but there's just this, like, oh, let's just settle and breathe together. And we're not trying to do anything tantric or anything. Like, we're not trying to do anything. We're just being with each other, and we're letting all that yummy stuff that happens when you get that heat and that body touch and, skin on skin touch. A lot, in so many ways, it's a lot like what babies, how babies' brains develop with their mamas when they're just skin on skin with their mamas. That still happens with people, even as adults. And it's, even though even if we're not coming at it as like, I'm a baby and I need this, it's not like that. It's just, there is a regulatory aspect of it that's beautiful and grounding. So, um, but that connection is also like the verbal, like, let's talk. I want to hear from you. What are you, like, what are you chewing on? What are you sitting with? What do you, I know you so well. I know something's off. I know you're working on something, but I haven't heard from you. So, and I don't want to be the one to fill in the blanks and interpret what's going on. So just, talk to me. And even if it's not about us, like, just share with me. And so there's a lot around contact that can be like that. And then for us, even, I think this is more organic, but, I know, Tripp, you're cognizant of it when it doesn't happen for a while, is eye contact. A lot of couples can go weeks without making eye contact, particularly if there's kids, particularly if there's high stress jobs or animals to take care of or whatever, lots going on. You can just kind of cohabitate without just saying hello and looking in their eyes and staying in that, with looking at them. So I think that there's a lot there. Yeah. And yes, I mean, we both have a healthy sexual appetite, luckily. So, and we're a great match sexually. And so we come in the sex too. That helps. And just to be like, to bring it a little bit back to the teachy side of, like, what is contact, just to be clear for folks that, like, what are they throwing this word around? Think about it in terms of basic needs. So food, touch, or movement. And they can be quite literal as when you're young, and they could still be literal when you're older, but they can evolve. So touch can be emotional touch, energetic touch, can be physical, sexual touch, can be any kind of version of that. Food can be soul food, energetically nourishing, as much as literal, or like thought food, like, there's all sorts of different kind of iterations of those core needs. But those food, touch, movement needs, I think that we have done a good job, um, tacking, like, we champion that. We know that those things do a lot for each of us. And so we tend to tack back to what are the ways that we can, um, you know, satisfy those needs, on any given day or in any given moment.
I want to speak to something you alluded to, Michael, which was like, after us being together for
20 years, sex is our sex life has had chapters, let's say. So the sex life we have now is very different from the sex life we had when we met. And I could imagine that if we weren't paying attention and we weren't, I don't like to make sex a project. I always like, oh, don't make sex like you're this project you're working on, right? It should be play. I like the idea of it being play. Sometimes you got to work at it to play, but we have gone through iterations of who we are sexually as individuals, and we've gone through iterations as a couple. And I could imagine like it's very easy to get stuck in a certain chapter if nobody's willing to talk about it or bring it up or say, hey, this is where I'm at and this is where you are. It could just be really easy to flatline there. And so it's been very conscious on our part to work through those changes as I've matured and become who I am, and as she's matured and become who she is, that, oh, there's change, like, oh, this is who you are sexually now. But that has taken a willingness to go into some pretty uncomfortable places and conversations.
I love that. It fits nicely. I have a process I take clients through called roles, and these. There's certain roles that guide us in particular aspects of our life. There's roles we play and identities we bring into it. I always tell people, don't turn yourself or your partner into a rock. Like, you want to keep exploring those roles, and identities, because they change with seasons, as I heard you say. So I'd love to hear that you guys naturally or organically kind of do that. I've seen couples who, like, they face their kids for 18 years. Kids go off to school.
Yeah.
Each other like, who the fuck are you? Because they have not re-examined over those 18 years who they are individually, let alone who they are as a couple, except for as a parent. You know?
Right.
Yeah. Except for the roles. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So I did a post yesterday. I like Tripp for you to comment. I did a post, and some of the women folks were responding to it, saying, and it's about the way you all just described how you be in contact from a man to a woman with a woman, like getting to know her, touch and emotional contact mentally, and really having to be present and paying attention to her moment to moment. And one commentary from one of the gals was like, men don't learn how to do that. Like, how can men learn how to do that? And obviously you sound like a skillful lover, Tripp. And I don't just mean sexually, but like you sound as if you really paid close attention to Alyson and kind of go with the flows of who she is showing up at any particular moment. You've run men's groups. Like, how do you help men do more of that with their female partners?
Well, it's got to be a desire on their part. Like,
And I think an invitation on the female's part too.
Okay. But I've actually in my life see more where men are partnered with women who aren't interested in this, in this development. So, which I know is flip-flop from what a lot of folks experience, but to a degree, these men are on a growth path. They're on a transformative path, but their partners are not, and that's a source of friction for them. What does that point to? They're not being browbeaten into change, and they're also not getting a message from their partner that they're not enough or that they're unacceptable, which usually has somebody just want to put the brakes on anyway, right? So they have an intrinsic desire to grow and learn and want to be more connected on other levels, that they're kind of tired of being in the shallow end of the pool, or they're tired of the junk food kind of way of doing things. And so they're motivated. They're motivated to go into these places. And so they can be extraordinary in that regard, but these are just dudes. I mean, they're the guy living down the street from you. And so I think that I would watch out for this. Guys don't do that. I would just say, like, that's a level of perception, and maybe there's just an opportunity to get into more conversations around that, because you probably find that it's not that guys don't want to do X, but they probably do want what would be on the other side of that, which is greater connection or greater intimacy, or really feeling like they've got a partner that has their back, et cetera, et cetera. They'd be like, yeah, I want that. And then there's just some guys that are just fucking asleep at the wheel. Same with women. I don't think that that's any gender, it's like, that's just a lot of folks that asleep at the wheel. But Yeah, I'd say they've got to want it. And if they want it, man, it's a great time to be alive because there's so many more resources. It's so much more normalized. Whereas 25 years ago, you were a freak if you were interested in this stuff. Like it just wasn't talked about. You had to
Yeah.
go up in the woods and beat on a drum with naked dudes to have these conversations. You couldn't just open up your phone and watch a YouTube.
I have something to say. Also,
Nice.
can I add on to this?
Yep.
Because there's the how, right? Like there's the question of like, how do, if somebody's not doing this, how do they do this, right? And so I think, we can, if we were to back up, like I interjected what Tripp was saying, there's a lot of, he was saying, men want this too. And I wanted to interject that people can get into a place where they're condemning what's not happening, like what it is they want that's not happening. And then they're just hanging out there. Oh, there you did it again. You didn't do the thing again, right? Or you didn't, I wanted this. I just made a bid for attention. And then you just like walked away or looked at your phone or you couldn't hang. And so there's the focus is on what's not happening. Right. And so I think there needs to be, first of all, like a level of, willingness to be radically honest with each other, which is like, hey, I want this. It could just be as simple as feeling the vulnerability of saying, this is something I want more of, rather than pointing out what's not happening. And then I think that there can be invitation, the practice, the experiential practice. And for people that haven't, we're talking, Tripp and I are like, we're fine on the path in terms of, having the capacity for intensity and discomfort and all of that. But if you're just getting started, there is, that's just like looking in somebody's eyes or like hanging out with them. If you don't have something to say, or you're feeling a lot of feelings and you're not sure about sharing them or how they'll receive them, that in and of itself is a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking back to, you were asking about contact earlier. And one of the things I was omitted saying is like, I'm just a touchy person. I'm I'm constantly touching everything, like people, family all the time. I'm touching them all the time. And I've said to them, like, I'm grateful that you, because but I remember in the beginning, I would come up to Tripp, like I'd hug him and I'd hold him and I'd embrace him. And then I wouldn't let go of the hug and I'd stay up in his space. And I remember he would be playful about it, but he would be like he couldn't, I was pointing out at the time we were just playing. Often we would play like this of like, oh, you can't, just stay. But even him, he was like, this is a lot. Just this.
She didn't understand consent. I had to teach her the wheel of consent.
Wasn't sticking anything in you. Anyway, but the whole reason I'm saying this is that let's just say 90% of the population, 80% of the population doesn't know a lot of what we're talking about. They're like, how the fuck are we getting there? And so the moments where you can create an invitation to be like, I don't know what to say here, but I just want to stay just like this. I'm just going to try to look at you a little bit longer than I normally do. Or let's just stay facing each other a little bit longer than we normally do. Or let's name our discomfort a little bit more verbally than we normally do, or like whatever, like let's just take a baby step in this direction over and over and over again. Essentially, what we're talking about is like those moments of contact over time is what helps build intimacy, trust, bandwidth, capacity, all of that. So that I want to, like, I have a lot of compassion and respect for people that both say, oh, men don't do that. And also women don't do that. I don't know how to do that, or I want to do that, but I'm terrified. Like that is real. So start where you are with what you can do, even if it's just for 10 seconds, and then see if you can go 11 seconds next time, right? Like it can be as simple as that. for people that really want
I love that. No, that's wonderful advice. And actually, it's really funny because I was going to say, if you had advice to give, and then,
it.
so people are listening to this like, man, this is a badass company. Like, how can I learn more what they both do individually and how you got to teach what you got to teach collectively? Where might people learn more about those things about you guys?
Well, Allison's been forcing her way onto our podcast, my podcast, The New Man.
Forcing my way.
I'm in there, I'm trying to do my thing. And then she's like, oh, I brought it. Look, I found another microphone.
That's me.
And I'm like, oh, good.
Coming up. I don't know.
Yeah, I was actually going to try and get some help from you on how to set some boundaries.
Lock your podcast studio door.
Yeah, lock that
There you go.
door.
Stop inviting me.
Oh, shut them down. All right.
So we've been having fun on the podcast. If I'm not interviewing other people, then we have some good conversations on there. And then obviously, if you want to learn more about the stuff that I do, trippandlanier.com is the website for my services. And This Book Will Make You Dangerous is available if you want to check that out on Amazon.
Highly recommend the book.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, the book is great. And I work mostly individually with people, although I do take couples on every now and then. I also do intensives with people. So for people that don't really know what I'm talking about, they want what I'm talking about, and they don't have any idea how to get it, but they know that they want it. Coming and having some experiential work is really valuable, and I offer that for folks. And my website's kind of under construction right now, but you can go ahead and AlysonLanier.com. They can find me that way. They can email me or contact me that way.
Oh. Any last parting wisdom from the Laniers?
I want to add something here
fun.
because I don't think that Alyson sees this in herself, but everything that we've been talking about today requires a sense of safety. And I'm highly critical of myself, but in this regard, I think I'm sloppier. But one thing that Alyson, you have always been really powerful at is creating a safe environment. So all this stuff we're talking about, it's hard. It's hard to do. It's hard to do with a partner, especially if there's knives coming every once in a while, or there's little daggers that are happening. It doesn't feel like, how could I say that to my partner? How could I make this invitation, or they're just going to throw another knife at me, or those types of things. And I have to say that your superpower, Alyson, is that you've been genuinely kind. You practice genuine kindness in a way that is baffling for me, because it's not it's not normal for me. I like to play and be rude and, as kind of tussle. And so that I can I have that nature, like bro kind of thing. We kind of give each other shit. And I know you do that too. From the very first weekend we met, you gave me a ton of shit and you set me up in horrible ways. And I went through the gauntlet. But nonetheless, you also create an environment of safety. And so talking about sex or talking about emotions or talking about X, Y, and Z feels very okay. We could totally talk about it. I'm not going to get condemned here. I might get challenged, and you will challenge people. But I think that that's a big part of it. And that's one of the things that that you inspire me, is like, how could I be kinder here or create more safety here and allow more of what's going to happen? Because if somebody doesn't feel safe, then they're going to stay closed off. So that's one of the biggest ways that you're a teacher for me.
Thank you, honey. That's a really lovely thing to say. Yeah.
That's
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, not that we need to do this, but I do want to just acknowledge you.
Just leave it at that. You can tell me that.
The humor, you bring the humor and the levity. I mean, I can be my center of gravity is intensity and depth. So I can get real heavy real quick over time. That's a dumb take long for that to be like, Jesus, really? And more? So to have you who can bring levity, not just to the fun moments where we need to move energy, but to intense moments where there can be like a need for seriousness. And You always say I misinterpret an exchange that we had a long time ago. I don't remember what the context was, but I remember coming at you and being like about something. So I don't know what it was. And you looked down, you squared up, you looked me right in the eye, and you said, Alyson, there's the absolute and there's a relative. This is relative. And so there is an element of like, hang on to the true north here, honey. Like, what are we here for? What are we doing? And he does a wonderful job holding. You do a wonderful job holding center, and I'm always like take a knee to that. So in terms of wisdom for the audience, the one thing I will say is, we've just casually talked about being aggressive or throwing daggers or, the fights that can happen where hurt and lack of safety can happen. And if there's one thing that, easier said than done, but that I would say like right away, check yourself and see how you're being harmful. If you don't bring a level of care, respect, and regard to the person that you want care, respect, and regard from, don't expect to get it back. So that's kind of a house rule, shall we say, from very, very early on and I still hold that rule fiercely in our home. And now I get to witness our daughter enforcing that and her, seeing it in her, how that's impacted her value of relationship with friends and how she upholds that with friends too. And so clean up your shit. Like stop being mean, stop being an asshole, like figure out another way to communicate what you need to communicate. So.
That's awesome. Stop being an asshole. That'll be the title of
Stop being a dick. Yeah.
the interview. I love it.
I hear that a lot, by the way.
Being a brat.
Tripp and Alyson, it's been great to have this conversation with you. I appreciate your all's time and your flexibility over the last many months to finding a time that actually works. Do my own therapy with this whole trip thing, so we're good to go.
Yeah, it'll take a while.
It's really good to see you, Michael.
Thanks, Michael.
All right, take care, guys.
Take care.